integrated pathways include relatable career and technical programs, as well as classrooms for English, history, math, and science. Each wing contains a library for students to work in small groups. Along with this, the school is home to 20 CTE programs. As you enter the building, the blue wing to the right is the Health and Human Services pathway. This pathway is home to the Early Childhood Occupations Education, Health Occupations, Emergency Medical Services, and Fire Science. And on the second floor, law enforcement. The green wing to the left is the business and marketing pathway. This pathway includes culinary arts, cosmetology, landscaping and horticulture, and on the second floor, there are general classrooms like this one. Computer network systems, Academy of Business. Next path, yellow wing to the left, science and technology. Programs in this electrical wiring, here's a chemistry room, precision manufacturing, building trades, automotive technology, welding and metal fabrication, auto collision repair, and on the second floor, there's engineering and architectural design. Straight to the back, we first pass the Agora. Red wing, and the music department chorus and band. The Performing Arts Center is an 850-seat theater with all new lighting, sound, and fly systems. The F-wing portion of the building contains a competition gym, practice gym, wrestling multi-purpose room, locker rooms, a weight room, a cardio room, and health classrooms.
Hello? Good. Yeah, sure. Jim. I'm Tanner Duncan with Bytespeed. Our company's based out of Moorhead, Minnesota. Who's heard of us before? Okay, we do a lot in Maine, a lot of business. We have a lot of fun. Like Maine is probably I work with 9 states. Maine's probably my favorite one to work with. My wife and I, we both graduated from the same high school over in Minnesota. We finally just passed, after probably 10 years, a $50 million high school remodel, and it was kind of a big debate whether or not we were going to get a new high school, but that's pretty incredible. There's a lot of really, really cool stuff here. Yeah, I wish we'd done this, but how it goes. Bytespeed, we were founded in 1999. We are your complete IT resource. We do infrastructure for schools, anything from wireless, Wi-Fi, smart board. We have partners for all that in place. We are nationwide. We're in about 5,000 school districts around the country. I'm probably in 60 or 70 school districts in Maine, so I really enjoy working with you guys. In-house service and tech support, a big part of our company. 5-year warranties on all of our desktops, 3-year warranties on all of our laptops, 5-year on our servers. So we've really built a big business over the last 20 years, and yeah, we've been doing a lot of virtual reality. So I know some schools in Maine have started talking about some virtual reality stuff, and we're located in Moorhead, Minnesota. I'm not sure. Raise a hand who's been to Minnesota? A couple of you? Me. I was founded in 1991. I'm a nationwide traveler. I tried to just kind of keep this theme going, but I didn't know what I was your complete friend maybe. I don't know. In-house worker and baby support. As you can see, I have a 6-month-old in back. It's not normal for us to travel together, but I don't know. I wanted to bring them out here for this. It's kind of fun to do this, to be able to do this for our job. I'm located in Frazee, Minnesota. It's about an hour to the east of Fargo, North Dakota. Family's a big part of my life. My goal is to travel the world someday. That's kind of like a test run. My wife and I have been traveling all week with the baby. Kind of done a big loop. And the reason that I did wood-fired pizza today is we lived in Denver, Colorado for 3 years. I had a wood-fired truck out there. And funny story, this was the first time I ever got to cook in a wood-fired pizza oven. I had hair back then. That was just like 2 or 3 years ago, but a little different. That's the same oven that we just purchased, and we were bringing it to Minnesota this summer. So I'm opening up a a wood-fired pizza business on top of doing technology sales, I guess. So super excited. Everyone liked the pizza. It was pretty good, right? I do a good job. Total shot in the dark. That's a great job. Suggestion from Joan, and really appreciate her. We traveled. a lot. So up in Frazee, Minnesota, you see Fargo. We did about a 3.5-hour drive down to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hit the airport at about 8 o'clock flew into Boston. Stayed in Worcester. Stayed in Worcester. Okay, now we're getting to a bunch of different crazy stuff. We went down to Putnam Bank in Connecticut. Drove over to Glastonbury. Glastonbury buys all their tech from us. Hiked up to Hartford, where it splits, goes 89 to Montpelier. Well, we were supposed to take that route, and we went back, got gas, and then we shot up to St. Johnsbury instead. Had to take the back roads, added an hour and a half to our trip. Stayed in Burlington. Burlington School District, I work with them. They buy all their desktops. J Peak Resort, they buy all their desktops from us as well. So great people up there. If you've never been to J Peak, I highly recommend it. Last night we stayed in the White Mountains. Woke up pretty early this morning to come get Emily's pizza at 11:45. Then drove straight over here and tried to make it by noon. We pulled into the parking lot at 11. Did our best. The main reason I came out here was to talk about the fastest growing sport in the entire world. It really is. It's really sweeping the nation. I sell computers and PR and work with schools in 9 different states. Southern California probably has 300. Pickleball? Esports. California has about like 150 right now. Orange County has their own league. Every school in Orange County has their own. Two states that I'm in that have a ton of esports schools, Massachusetts and Connecticut. I'll show you a little bit of a map later to show you all. Maine does have 6 right now, coalition, both clubs and kind of sanctioned schools, but it has been a little bit of a hot topic, right? A little bit. So that's why I'm out here. I want to hopefully answer some questions. I do have Thomas College. There's 2 colleges in Maine right now that have Thomas College, Central Maine College. They're both. I'm not sure if Thomas is a scholarship school for esports, but there's over 150 colleges right now in the country that are recruiting kids that play these video games already for scholarships. So kind of cool, kind of crazy, cool. I do have a 4-minute video here.
Esports. We love to play. Since the 1980s, video games and competitive gameplay have been part of our Western culture.
See if I can get it to stop for a second. I guess just bear with the video for a couple minutes here.
Esports. We love to play. Since the 1980s, video games and competitive gameplay have been part of our Western culture. The video arcade, the Atari, Nintendo, PlayStation, even PC gaming, all part of this rich cultural lineage of play. We play ourselves. We watch. We even compete. What makes an esport? Well, any individual or team game that can be played on a level playing field in competition, whether that's live or online.
Still alive! Charm's gonna land onto him! Is he gonna be able to walk away? Baker is still running! Damaging him! And another time! And expansion goes down!
While there are half a dozen top-tier esports, more than 100 different titles are being played competitively around the world. Esports break all boundaries. They're played by men and women across cultures and can be played on consoles, PCs, and even mobile devices. Esports are truly a world. Over the last decade, we've seen interest, broadcast, and live events eclipse those of their traditional sport counterparts. Esports are a massive draw, We love to watch them live, and we love to watch them stream. For people under 30, video games are the most popular media industry in the world, more popular than television, music, or movies. But competitive video game play is not just something we do, it's something we watch. In 2016, more people watched the League of Legends Championships than the World Series, the NBA Championships, or the Stanley Cup playoffs. That makes the top 3 sporting events in the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and a video game competition. Esports are the sport of the rising generation. Talented players, broadcasters, and managers are filling every level from professional, now to collegiate, high school, and even Pee-wee. To many, esports is the biggest world they've never heard of. But to millennials, it's the future of competition, of broadcasting, and of sport. But not the distant future, the future of today. This is esports.
That gets you all fired up real good, right? Sanford, Maine, I just looked this up. I guess it's the 7th largest municipality in the state. We didn't get to see much of it driving through, but it's definitely widespread. We got to see quite a bit. It's a cool little town. Population 21,475. Who here has heard of Twitch? I hope some of you have at least. Few. So as esports really started gaining popularity probably 4 or 5 years ago, I got introduced to Twitch, and I didn't play. I played quite a bit of video games growing up. My brothers played even more than I did, but I was in football, I was in golf, basketball. I played tennis in high school, and I was a big ESPN guy. So Twitch, it's kind of like this almost ESPN equivalent. That's one way to explain it. It's this website that allows video game players who are at their houses to stream their live content and gain an audience by it. Who's heard of Ninja over the last year with Fortnite? A couple of you? So Ninja has over, I think, 20 million YouTube subscribers, and he just built this playing games on his, from his home. So I'm gonna just go into Twitch real quick, go to browse, might have, it might be blocked, right? Probably blocked. Right, yeah. So I had an idea here. Basically, there's hundreds and hundreds of titles, and there's, it tells you how many people are watching an event at one time, and usually it's between 150,000, 200,000, 300,000 are watching one game at a time, and that's pretty crazy, like, especially thinking about the size of a city like Sanford, or even a state like Maine, like the entire state of Maine watching one event or a couple different events at a time. This is a really, really big thing, and it's a really big thing and a great thing that a lot of schools, colleges are going into. There's a school over in Vermont that I've worked with pretty exclusively. Most of the high schools that do have a sport team also stream their content on Twitch. So, parents can watch at home, or aunts and uncles can watch from far away. It's just really a big media-driven event. Esports is all about team. Deeper level of interaction, playing with just friends. I was out at Boise State, and they're a top 25 esports school in the entire country. Idaho is one of my states I travel to. They have a coach, and most of these schools that have a sanctioned team or college, they do have coaches, and they don't just they're not just there to just coach, but they work on communication, they work on effort. It's a very skill-based thing to play a lot of these esport games. It's not just like fast hands, all that kind of stuff. It does require a lot of strategy to play games, a lot of critical thinking. The college teams that I'm aware of, a lot of them have both men and women on the same team. Kind of cool. I don't think we can say that about many other sports or many other activities in a lot of our high schools. Students are playing these games anyway. I think there's a stat later, and I'll go back over it, but over 90% of kids are playing games, and over like 60 or 70% of adults are playing games somehow. Like, who in the last 48 hours has played a game on their phone or PC or computer? Yeah, it's maybe 40, 50%. I know you guys are busy doing your network and all that stuff, so I get it, but who's playing a game right now? The video kind of touched on this. This is a little bit of a different graph, but by 2021, sports is going to have the most or more viewers than any other professional sport in the world. Country too. So the NFL is number one. Esports is going to be number 2 by 2021. MLB, NBA, NHL, MLS. But this is the crazy thing about this is that we don't see this advertised all that much. It is getting more and more, a lot more and more. Esports is now starting to be streamed a little bit on ESPN. ESPN is signing players to deals. I just saw something this morning that popped up on my Twitter. To buy a franchise for a professional, I think it was League of Legends, like a new League of Legends franchise. I think of it like an NFL franchise, like the Patriots. It was a $25 million buy-in. So all these people are investing all this money, and it's going to be a $1.5 billion industry by 2021. That's huge. It's growing every year. It's growing super fast. But there is a lot of like super valid points on like if this should be allowed in high school, should this be allowed in colleges, and should we be promoting kids playing video games? I'm with you. I get it. I get a lot of the concerns. Screen time is a huge concern. A lot of high schools are limiting, that have teams are limiting screen time. Practice for an hour and a half a day. Encourage the kids not to go out after when they get home and form bad habits. You know, just like playing golf. You're going to practice, not going to go out and just mess around. So forming good habits, and a lot of them, you know, after school, it's 2-hour practice for a lot of sporting events, right? So hour and a half on the screen, half hour maybe taking a walk outside or running around, just staying physical. It is a big part of, you know, being successful in esports. Game violence. I think the best example of game violence, Boise State, they are a top 25 school. They do not allow any games rated mature to be played on their esports teams. So it is rated T, like T for teen or lower. So they don't want any, you know, gun shooting games or first-person shooters. It's mostly kind of like what we saw on the screen, where it's little dot aliens running around and maybe shoot lasers at people and stuff like that. But it is a big concern. It's a valid concern, especially with all the gun violence that we've politically over the last couple of years. But there is schools. It's something that all these high school esports teams and college esports are thinking about. It's a valid concern. It's not a sport. Everyone has their own opinion on this one too, but you see that picture over on the right side. That arenas are being filled to watch, you know, people play these games, and there is a winner. And whether it's a physical activity or not, you know, it's mentally draining. It's strategically draining. It's really, you know, call it activity, call it a sport, but it's pretty fascinating. And then video game addiction, and that goes back to that. That goes back to limiting screen time, right? Like, people get addicted to so many different things these days, and anxiety is built in a lot of ways. And video game addiction, it is a real thing. It is clinically diagnosed these days, but maybe a big part of sports in these schools should be education on why it's important not to play video games, why it's important to you know, talk about it as a group, talk about it as a club, and really start forming relationships. As promised, on the high school eSport League's website, there's a couple different websites that you can go on to sign up to be on your high school or on an eSport league competitively in high school. High school eSport League is probably the biggest. We do partner with them, as well as Play. It's called Play VS, but they pronounce it Play Versus. So basically, it's allowing you guys to communicate. So if a coach from one high school and a coach from another high school want to like get a event going or get a game going one night. You can kind of correlate through the high school esport league instead of just emailing back and forth and get it set up. Everything's set up through here. There is a championship on it. Uh-oh. That's a lot of schools, though. And this is really growing rapidly. This is just one of the leagues. Like I said, Play Versus has another 100 schools up in these territories too, and it really is kind of to get a state championship or find a way to create a winner instead of these kids just playing against one another. And yeah, it's pretty cool to see the map and actually see the growth. It's probably, so I've been with Bytespeed now for 2 years. I might get a call or an inquiry once or twice a month about probably once every, someone requesting a quote for desktop or laptops, right? Whether it be a reference or whatnot. I've been getting calls probably every 2 or 3 days from schools that are interested in starting esports teams and leagues. And really what Bytespeed is trying to do is just be a resource, right? Like get the information out to you guys so you guys can make smart decisions of whether this is a good thing for your school or not. I'd obviously love to sell you the hardware, but that's not what it's about. It's about hopefully trying to get the graduation rates to increase in your schools. Hey guys, how's it going? Trying to get the graduation rates to increase at your schools and bring a whole different demographic of kid. This is Thomas College, Jim Delory up here, right? Jim Delory in the back. Yeah, great to meet you, Jim. And yeah, Thomas College will be up here to talk a little bit too in a couple minutes. Greater than 90% of all high school students play video games. The gender mix almost 50-50. A lot of times, I just saw this stat a couple days ago. It tends to be women play a little bit more on like a mobile device, right? So my wife, like a bubble shooter kind of gal and word games, and just kind of statistically speaking, that's kind of how it goes. But like I said, males and females compete on the same team. It's a real great way to get students to really, work together, form strategies, come up with what works as a team, and then implement them in games. And high school students will continue on graduation when they see the place for them to fit in college. Jim's going to talk about a little bit, the statistic-wise, how fast this is growing in colleges, and these high school kids are going to be able to go in to college, continue playing esports, stuff they love to do. Varsity esport players play not only in competition, but with other high school counterparts. And then greater than 60% of college esports students major in STEM programs. So STEM is obviously a huge shortage right now. That's why a high school like this gets so excited, because there's so many cool things going on here. Saw the cosmetology school as we walked by. Like, I know that's not necessarily STEM, but pretty cool that you can get that kind of experience in a high school and really figure out what you want to do. STEM is huge, right? We're all part of the STEM community, and if we can get more people in this community, we're going to see a lot of great growth. Esports helps you build confidence. Get to reach students that don't participate in traditional school sports or clubs. So I've talked to a lot of different people on this, and I kind of my own statistic, kind of a generalization. Seems like about 30 or 40% of students in most high schools, I don't know if it's the same in Maine, actually stay after school and play a sport, whether it be football, basketball, they go dance, they go to gymnastics, whatnot. But then there's another 60% that don't, and whether it be those kids don't like sports or the activities, or they're just not super social, a lot of them go home and play video games. Like I said, 90% of kids are playing video games these days. So even of those 30 and 40%, a lot of them are going to stay in sports, but a lot of those same kids might play an esport league or at the same time. It really helps foster student relationships. A lot of these kids go and play with their online friends. When I used to play Halo 2, I never thought I'd travel to Maine as much as I have, or I guess be out this direction. I've only spent 4 hours in Maine my whole life. We haven't been today, so But one of our best friends that I played with on Halo 2 is from Maine, so kind of cool that it's full circle. And then you get to develop skills in problem solving, teamwork, sportsmanship. It's really important. There's a chat that goes on between a lot of the teams that are playing, and GG means good game or whatnot, and it's just kind of common courtesy to congratulate your opponent or say good job, and just it's really promoting good sportsmanship. That's all part of esports as well. High schools whom have started programs or clubs have seen a higher rate or student involvement and graduation rate in comparison to the years before they implemented sport teams. Colleges are actively recruiting high school students to compete for their schools, oftentimes offering scholarships. Many students are talented enough right now, but don't have the exposure without a sanctioned team. And to me, I really, that's a reason I'm so passionate about this, is because we're almost limiting these kids to finding scholarship opportunities because they're not getting the exposure. Esports does require coaching, strategy, skill, and motivation. There are many college degrees in esports, not just playing the games, but learning about broadcasting, which fits in really nice here at Sanford. Boise State has, well, I'll get to that. Broadcasting, strategy, interviewing, production, light and sound, behind the scenes technology setup, server connection, game design. All really big, right? We're going into this virtual reality world, and we do sell a lot of virtual reality. I'll just make a quick point here. The reason that I don't think VR is thriving in schools right now is because the content's not there education-wise, but game design or experience design is huge, and we're going to need a lot more of that. Like I said, out at Boise State, they put about $2 million into this arena, and they're still going. They have a side room that you don't see. It has 120 gaming PCs in there, but kind of grainy. But here's kind of the setup. They have a kind of a hangout area, probably seats 60 to 100 people. It's kind of facing back this way. There's a stage, and they are very serious about this, that the varsity players get to play on that stage, and they don't really let a whole lot of other people up there. The varsity players get to wear the jersey, all that kind of stuff. They have a bunch of screens so you can watch what's going on. The broadcasters and commentators on the left side, they stream every night. So if you guys ever want to go on Twitch and find the Boise State stream, it's pretty incredible what they're doing. But it's something that we can implement in high schools, maybe not on the huge budget and professional level, but and then in the far back corner, it's running the replays. It's broadcast, audio, video, lights, and camera, recording events. And they're the same guys that do the interviews after all the games. And it's just like, you see Tom Brady being interviewed after a Patriots. Kind of cool. They talk. This is kind of a new concept for me too in the last couple of years, and I got to see this arena live for the first time 6 weeks ago. It's amazing. Like they're interviewing these players after the games, and they're just seriously talking about the strategy, why they won and why it worked. I think it's so fascinating. It's so cool. Kind of touched on this a little bit as well. Nationwide leagues, there's a bunch of them. High School Esport League is one of the biggest ones right now. Like I said, we do partner with them. High School Star League, Youth Esports of America, National Federation of State High Schools, and then Playverse is the other one. Each one of them have different titles that they allow you to play, so it kind of depends on what students like to play and all that kind of stuff. If you guys were interested in starting programs, this is probably the biggest part to research, right? Is what league do I really want to be a part of? What league do we want our school to be a part of? And I think hopefully eventually it's all kind of correlated. But statewide leagues, Ohio just launched a massive league that kind of taken off. I talked about the Orange County High School Esport League. If you go on the Orange County High School Esport League website, it lists all the schools. I think there's 60 to 65 schools, and then Connecticut High School Esport League, kind of more central from here. Pretty cool. Case, Gas and Thomas are going to probably talk about this a little bit more, but it's National Association of College Esport. It's the governing body for varsity esports, dedicated to the creation and support of college esports. So there's kind of a big debate right now of whether esports should be allowed a NCAA sanctioned event? Kind of leaning towards no. Am I right, Jim? We're going to kind of keep it totally separate because of all the politics, and hopefully, some of these athletes can be paid, especially as they're streaming and they're gaining popularity. And colleges across the country are recognizing the advantages of esports, building their own programs, and offering scholarships. Kind of the closing of the little esports section. I'll get into some Bytespeed stuff a little bit. It's really cool what's going on. There's so many different schools that are going into this. It's men, women, boys and girls that are all playing together, communicating together, staying after school, forming new friendship, becoming a team, and really competing. And then you do have a winner. So they get to brag about who wins state and all that kind of stuff. It's really cool. Bytespeed does offer gaming PCs. Those that do work with us, I do get to work with Joan here at Sanford. I have the pleasure of doing that, and she'll be able to tell you that our warranty and support is awesome. Esport PCs are no different. 5-year warranty on everything. Lifetime tech support, free custom imaging, all that kind of stuff. The biggest investment that you're going to have to make if you guys do start an esport team is PCs and peripherals. So if you already have that, great. I recommend getting started even sooner. But if you don't, trying to find funding, trying to find resources, we can help you with that. There is grants out there. There's a lot of people out there working to get started. Just to kind of give you a little bit of a idea of what the machines are priced out at. These can be used in other areas, labs that aren't just for esports, so you don't have to think of it as this is an esport computer only. It is an 8th gen i3 over there. I obviously don't recommend i3 for gaming, but it does work. Then kind of that i5 8400 in the middle, kind of the better, and then the best is this Gravity Nebula over here in i5 8400. We can obviously go higher, right? We can implement some VR rigs as well. This last one does have a 1060 video card, so you can start using Oculus or HTC Vive, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a good PC at a good price, and like I said, we back it up. Jerseys, a small investment, but it is part of it. A lot of schools that compete do have the jerseys as well. We do custom engrave the PCs if you want your school's image on it. We do help source jerseys, cases, all that stuff. And yeah, that's what we're here for. We're really here to be a resource, and if you work with us, great. If not, I'll answer as many questions as you want. Gaming desks and chairs. This is another big thing for a lot of schools. Not necessary, obviously, but Boise State does have the gaming chairs. A lot of high schools do have the gaming chairs. Did anyone that go to Acton, did we give away a gaming chair this year? Did anyone remember seeing that? Maybe. We've been doing it a lot of, do it next year? Maybe I'll bring 2. Like I said, funding resources. There's a lot of ways to help your school get started. There's a bunch of communities out there that are talking about whether this is a good thing or not for schools, and this is going to be in every school in the country, whether it be in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. Like esports, it's coming. It really is, and it's that younger generation that's thriving on it. So I think the sooner that we get it into schools, the better, and really start getting these kids some scholarships in areas that they might not be able to get otherwise. I'll kind of leave you with this. Don't limit a child to your own learning for he or she born in another time. It's pretty powerful. I'll tell you, my 17-year-old brother-in-law is way more tech savvy than me, and I know 10-year-olds that are way more tech savvy than him. It's pretty intuitive, especially seeing virtual reality. If I bring it to a trade show and you get the 7 or 8-year-old kids in a VR headset, they pick it up 30 seconds to a minute. It's so intuitive to these young kids, and we really are in this tech revolution. So yeah, just a thought to think about as we kind of wrap this up. I'm going to invite the guys from Thomas up, and you guys have an HDMI plug in, or we have the cord and stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, cool. Yeah, come on up, guys, and we'll get you guys going. Hey guys, I am here on live stream. I think we're gonna pause live stream for 10 minutes or so. Then we'll go to Thomas College and then do a Q&A. Yeah. 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 That's a great question. Yes, the AR are able to run esports. In fact, that's probably one of the easiest ways to get started with this. There is so many AR VR out there, right? Probably have to say somewhere in the grant that it is going to also be doubled as an esport machine, and maybe that'll even help get your grant. But yeah, those machines, those AR VR machines, are absolutely perfect for what we're trying to accomplish in esports. So that's a great question. Does that answer it? Yeah, if you right, no, right, just like anything these days, it's the video card that's really able to run a lot of these higher end things. It doesn't require a really high end video card to run a lot of the esport games, but the higher video card that you have, if you do have a 1060, you're already well on your way to having video games. Anyone have VR here? How many has VR in schools? Kind of like a cardboard, or do we have some Oculus HTC Vive stuff? Some of the higher end stuff. So we do partner with HTC Vive. We do resell Oculus. Vive is about to hire a Boston rep. So that I think it's going to really help. Vive is more concentrated and focused on enterprise, but they do have a big education focus as well. But those reps, those HTC Vive reps, are willing to travel and come to your school and do demos, as am I. If I'm out here and you guys want to do a demo, I could probably get 60 to 70 kids in a headset, or 60, 70 teachers in a headset within 3-4 hour period. You guys want to set something up? Let me know.
by talking. All right, I'll start real quick, guys. Thanks for having us come down. My name is Jim Delory. I'm the Assistant Dean for Student Engagement at Thomas. So that means I work with life outside the classroom, everything from clubs and groups to theater to dance, and since October, esports. It's very new for us. We started researching this in August. We're lucky enough to have a funder really push us forward on this and moved it to an idea, to a launch, to hiring a coach, to competing by January. So that's an aggressive schedule. And I think like Martin and I were a little bit late this morning. We were tied up in a meeting this morning in Portland on opportunities with esports in Portland. We were there for 3 hours. So it's definitely coming to Maine, and it's coming in very varied places. But I think the high schools really, for us, and looking at the opportunities, could be the lifeblood of how esports comes to life in Maine. You know, there's tons of students out there who want to be part of it. They're in video games, and they're playing. So that's my quick introduction. I'm going to let Martin run through the slides. One of our slide options for this is, we got some information up here. We're keeping the slide portion brief. We've done a couple of other presentations, talked to other people. There's been tons of Q&A or questions or asks of why and how and what is your process. So we want to make sure we have time for that. So please fire away with questions on anything you have. Everything from how it got started, where we're competing, to how we see high schools starting it. I know Waterville High School has already launched an esports team this semester. We've worked on some with them. I don't know how they're doing with it. I know they played the other day and they're in their first competition won, so they were excited about that. So also like to introduce Martin Shalazine. He's our head esports coach at school. So when it comes to the day-to-day operation of running an esports program, he lives it quite considerably. So let him start this presentation and go from there, unless you have any opening.
So as Jim said, my name is Martin. Last program at right at hopped on board. To give a little bit of background around myself, Jim just ran you through what he does. Back in high school is when I went professional. I started playing World of Warcraft very seriously, got on a 5-figure salary, and was flown out to Sweden. That sort of entrenched me in the esports industry at a very young age, and I clung on to it for dear life. I continued to succeed academically, but as far as my passion, the majority of my concerted efforts, they were really focused on esports at that point. Closed out my high school education, went to Southern Maine Community College, South Portland, closed out a 2-year business management degree. While I was there, I built, monetized, eventually sold off a League of Legends fan site to what is now the 3rd largest player in North America. After that, I finished out my degree. I got a degree in finance, and I did a stint in private equity, working for an office out of Portland. And at the time I transitioned over to Thomas, I was looking at sports opportunities on a national basis, ultimately turning down actually quite a couple with major players in California to stay in the state. So I have done my round, so to speak. Touching on Thomas's program in specific, obviously we started up in January, so it's still very nascent, very brand new. Due to the timing that I came on, this was launched and is running based off the existing student body. There was no recruitment. There's obviously a huge part of it going forward, but the program as it stands was based out of the students that were already at Thomas. The esports program is considered a formal varsity program. These students have high academic expectations of them. As you expect of any athlete, I get notifications whenever their academic pursuits begin to lapse, and we put action plans in place to correct that. So this isn't sort of your stereotypical scenario where you have a gamer hiding in a basement, being asocial, doing what they do, to the sort of failure of everything else. We compete in 6 major esports titles: League of Legends, Rocket League, Overwatch, Fortnite, Smash Ultimate, and Rainbow Six Siege. We compete in those games across 9 major leagues, be them national or regional. And we compete 2 to 3 times a week for each team, practicing 2 to 4.
I think one thing too, I think it was alluded to before this, I feel like sometimes I'm in this mic, sometimes I'm not. NACE, so the National Association of Collegiate Esports, they're definitely positioning themselves to be the governing body. And that's really where they want to be. So they really strive to work with varsity sanctioned programs from collegiate schools. Some of those have a hired coach. Some of those are still student led. So the realm of programs is quite varied. Sometimes it's a club or a group that the school has sanctioned and said, yes, you guys can go compete. Other times there's a coach. So it makes it an interesting, world to work in on that level. I know on Martin's end, he has a ton of administrative work that comes with schedule. So it's not like your soccer team is scheduled to play at 3 o'clock and barring rain and lightning, you play at 3 o'clock. With esports, it'd be like, well, you're supposed to play at 3 o'clock, but that team has a student in class or someone's working. Can we reschedule? And that's happening at the collegiate level. 75% of the games get moved at least a little, which becomes a lot of juggling of student schedules with our students, their students, games, times. Oh, we had another match scheduled in our space. We don't have infinite number of computers. So some of those pieces come in, but I do think we joined NACE and we joined the ECAC, which is East Coast Athletic Conference, more well known for their championships in field hockey and football and soccer. They now are in the esports world, and they've recently added it 18 months ago. They hold weekly and semesterly leagues, and then at the end of the month, they actually hold a conference at Hudson Valley in Albany, New York, where we're traveling with our team. So our team's actually traveling like another athletic team would for a weekend championship. So they'll spend the weekend there playing. So there are those parts of the program that really bring out the ability for students to travel. And for some of our students in particular, who maybe never played on a varsity team at the collegiate or high school level, they've never traveled and represented their, and there's some pride in that. Like, they are so excited to put their jerseys on, and we haven't put their names on the back of them yet. And that's like, the second we do that, it's going to be like we handed them gold. I hear about it on a week. They were excited with the jerseys. And there was even discussion from our end of like, what do you put on the back? Do you put their gamer tag that they use in game, or do you put their name? Like, and that's for them. If you look at the professional level, all of them have the name they use in the game. Like, if you were to go talk to somebody who plays for Team Solo Mid, you're going to talk to them most likely, unless you've met them personally, using that gamer tag, because that's the medium that they put forward for you to use. We decided we're going to put their actual names on the back, their gamer tag on the sleeve. It was a good compromise.
So moving more towards something that's obviously highly applicable to all of you guys is the technology that we use in the room.
Yeah, this is what we use. I know Bytespeed's here today, but this is what we have used at the collegiate level. And I think these are comparable to what he just showed you. Sorry.
This is really sort of the Ferrari, if you will, as it currently stands in the market. If you go for a custom-built rig, Thomas College is a campus, the Dell campus, which is why we went with Alienware. Alienware falls under the Dell umbrella. That is not to say that this is necessarily the ideal setup. If I had been here when these were ordered, we would have done something else, but that's between you and me.
Yes. I think the other piece, and I talked about, is these are high-end machines. We've learned that if you want to use VR and AR, that stuff, the higher tech is good. Some of these esports programs and these games, and Martin may have wanted to touch, they don't require the highest end because they have to be able to send it to the internet if we're not playing in person. So, I mean, I run the Thomas Cup at Thomas, if you're familiar with that program. We have students play League of Legends on MacBook Air. That's pretty low-end tech. So some of these games can be run, I mean, yeah, you want to be at the higher end, you're not handicapped players, but you don't necessarily have to be at the highest end where you may need for, design or VR. So there is some wiggle room on that tech.
Yeah, and just to sort of distill that to a little bit more of a concrete phrasing is, at the end of the day, most esports games, by virtue of what they are, is they're massively multiplayer online games, dealing with a lot of data transfer parties. And if you make that too intensive from a technical prerequisite perspective, it's just a non-starter. So most of the games that are played in an esports capacity require far less computing power than you like. All right. Touching on some of the benefits of being on an esports team, I know that he just touched on a couple as we were walking in. And so one of the things that is going to be most challenging moving forward as more schools adopt esports programs is sort of beating the stigma of the basement dweller that is antisocial and is playing mindless video games. I think that that phrase that actually is almost a euphemism at this point of mindless video games has never been an applicable statement. Especially as we move into the realm of esports, none of these games are mindless. Quite the opposite of that. The amount of strategic insight and creative problem solving in order to perform in these ecosystems, absolutely tremendous. It's a funny little joke that I cite a lot of the time, but my game of specialization, League of Legends, I could quite literally write a 1,000-page book on the strategy of that game and still only brush the surface. I've spent 8 years playing that, and I still don't know it as well as the best people. So to say that something like that doesn't provide value from a analytical, strategic thinking mindset perspective is disappointing. So I think that sort of value that you're bringing to your students cannot be understated. I mean, I worked in private equity as a quantitative analyst. Many of the skills I used there, I had previously deployed when I was playing video games. Something that a lot of people don't understand and don't appreciate is that video games, at the end of the day, are programs. If you go beneath it, it's numbers and code. You can extract that code from the game, optimize it, find out how you can play the game best to give yourself a competitive edge, and that's ultimately what esports are all about. You're trying to optimize the game so that if you remove human error, your team is best.
We see it too, is the team aspect. We've heard conversations, and I'm sure you've heard them, is like, well, how do you call it a sport? Once you get past that, if people have their own opinions, they can have their opinions. But when you put students in a room working together, everything that happens on a general starts to happen. Whether it's communication, trust. If you have 8 of us went and sat in a room to play the same video game on a team and we're all screaming at each other, it's like everybody on the soccer field screaming at each other. Not a lot gets done. So you have to decide, all right, who has the best game knowledge? That's the person making the decision. They're the captain in this game. We have to do what they say. We have to learn to trust and listen. If we don't agree with what they're saying, they're in charge right now. We need to trust and listen. Better that everybody goes and makes the same mistake together than half the team doing it, and then it really doesn't work. There's a lot of those pieces. And for us and our students, you guys probably see this, students are playing. Like, I don't think we're going to ever stop that or change that, and I don't think there's a lot of push to make that happen. So we've taken them from doing it on their own and put them in an environment where they have to work together. They're sitting next to each other. There's social aspects, social to that they're learning that is going to involve in networking. They get older in life and they're trying to get a new job and they go to a networking event. They sit in a room and feel comfortable because they've done it. Yeah, the medium might be the video game of the esports team. Those skills we see align with our mission at Thomas, prepare them for their professional and personal lives. And we can do that through esports just like we do it on our soccer. So putting them together in a team is hugely beneficial. We see to take students who are pretty talented in our school and giving them a venue to really say, hey, we recognize that that person can hit a baseball really well, and we recognize that you can play a video game very well, and we're going to put you on that. And that's really what we're trying to do. And we've been pretty successful early on. And I mean, virtue of being invited here today, which I greatly appreciate, and the number of calls and opportunities that are coming down for us just by being in this kind of world early, it's taken up way more of my time than I want.
All right, and so moving on to sort of the results of the program, even just 3 months in, we now have 30 students actively competing on teams that play 5 days a week. If you compare that to any sort of traditional sports roster of 12 to 18, this program by itself outmatches pretty much any athletic program that you expect. Well, beyond that, the teams that we have found surprising success. I probably shouldn't say surprising as the coach, but given our inaugural season, it was based off of the current student body, and in spite of that, we have wins with every single one of ours is poised to enter their playoff in Albany at the end of the month as a number 3.
So a lot of that is fun. I think for our students, it just validates. Like, they're doing these things anyways. Let's bring them together in a way where we can create atmosphere that does different things so they can have success. I mean, if these students are after school going home to play the video game, why can't we keep them at school and then put them into a room and play the game together? One of the first things we did is we had our nurse practitioner come in and talk to the students about health and safety, and you're all in the same room all the time. How do you take care of yourself? All of those pieces come into play, and you use the medium, whether it be esports or whatever, or VR or other things in a tech center, to get students excitement into a place, and then you can start to insert other pieces into that. Like we could do a whole workshop with our students, taking them to a leadership conference or a group dynamics conference, because all of those come into play because we have an esports program. It's no different than when, preseason, the lacrosse team goes away for a week, summer camp, not lacrosse, I feel like does this, just to work on team building for 2 days. It's the same idea. We need to have those same outcomes and that same level of commitment. We're lucky at Thomas that we have a funder in Bill and Jane Alphon that have come forward that helped us out. So yes, that was a huge starter for us. They came to us and said, this can be a differentiator for Thomas in your competition. Come to us, get a plan together, and we're going to make this happen. That's part of the reason the timeline on this has been so aggressive. But they've been awesome to work with, and he and Bill sees this as a huge industry that's coming. I've heard stats, and I think Tanner said that it's coming to all the schools. I think collegiately, 90% of colleges will have this sport inside of 3 years. On a daily, weekly basis, we get emails from NACE and other places. New sport coming on in the fall, new sport coming on next spring, new team, new schools joining. UC Irvine has built a massive place. Boise State has a huge arena. Ohio State, I saw a report on this a couple weeks ago, is building a $12 million facility for esports. The money in this is huge. And I can get into the technical pieces on why it's so big. They're capturing an audience, 18 to 24-year-olds. And if you can build brand loyalty with that group, make it forever. That's why the biggest sponsors in this aren't necessarily Bytespeed or Dell. They're Geico, they're Gillette.
Insurance companies. Razor companies.
Because you've got a market. And they were like, hey, if you can guarantee me that market that I can't get anywhere else, name your price. You guys are familiar with Twitch? We went to advertise on Twitch. Hey, where are all the gamers at? We're on Twitch. We have a new program. Where we want to advertise. Starting package, 3 months, $200K. Yeah. Average level package is over $1 million. It's like, yeah, we're not streaming. We're not going to be advertising on Twitch anymore. But it just shows you the size of it. Like how big this is becoming. And it's coming fast. And there are schools in Maine that are already joining, whether they're doing it through a tech center or they're doing it through athletics. Even at the collegiate level, there's no governing agency to say where it has to go. So right now it's falling under recreation, under our student affairs department. Some schools have it under their athletics department. Some schools even have it under their academic department, and their dean of students and other people run it based on what their school has. So there's no one way, right way, wrong way. It's just a matter of almost like if you're going to start it. You're going to learn some things along the way, but you're innovating. That's the idea. But I think students, by saying we launched this in the fall, I mean, we get instant credibility with, wow, you're taking something we love and you're giving us an opportunity.
And with that, I'm sure you have plenty of questions. Yeah. We intentionally made a small deck because given our experience and where we're at, we'd rather part knowledge that you're interested in, give summaries of what we accomplished today.
Yeah.
I speak French, it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, it is a sport. It does not fall under our athletic department, but we still call it a varsity sport. If you look at the college level, you don't typically see JV varsity. It's more of a high school terminology. In the esports world, it's really become prevalent as a differentiator. Some schools have sports clubs, but by tacking the word varsity onto it, trying to say, all right, the school has sanctioned this is their varsity program, and that's becoming prevalent throughout the country, even though it's not typically associated with your baseball or soccer. The Thomas College baseball team, not the Thomas College varsity. Funding startup really depends on, I mean, you could spend small amounts or huge amounts of money. Are you building a brand new room and you're trying to outfit it totally like a space like this? This could be a home, this room. You put 5 computers or 10 computers right here, and you could probably stream and play in this room this afternoon. It really depends on what your infrastructure is. For us at Thomas, we went through almost every possible open room on campus to find a space for this because space for us is at a premium, and where can we put it? So we're in a small space right now, and we're in the planning processes of adding this to a newer construction building that we're in the architect stage of right now. So we're already looking at how do we build a new space brand. The big money is the tech. What are you going to use it for? Is it multi-purpose, single purpose? Is it in a classroom that's also going to be your after-school space? Is it strictly for gaming? Our space is an esports room. We call it the Cave, Competitive Academic Varsity. That's what our space is called. And we worked with our provost to keep academic in there because we think that's important. And we think that's important to mom and dad when they walk in the door and they see that it's a gaming. So yeah, you could buy some of the stuff that Tanner had up earlier, and depends on how many you want. Do you want 6 computers, 10, 24? How big is your school? I think that all those come into the cost. So it's hard to really lay a number down. The machines we purchased were not on the low end on the cost. And we purchased 10 of them. But we also have 3 4K TVs for console games. So when students want to play Super Smash Brothers, we have a Fortnite player who plays on console versus PC, trying to get him to change. He won't. I hope that helps answer. If he has more, let me know.
So I know at the high school level you have HESL, you have PlayVS that are sort of sanctioned formal environments. Below that, I know that there are one of my other ventures is that I have an esports startup. I traveled to Jacksonville, Florida for that this spring. And while I was there, one of the other startups that was at the convention I was at was quite literally an esports little league. They've gained tons of traction down there and are now creeping up the entire East Coast. So the sort of leagues to organize it exist, and they're gaining traction. It's just a matter of time at this point. You're still in a situation where the scene is so nascent that it's working its way up.
On the other end of that scale, you've got every NBA team has a 2K team now. Like they have every NBA team has a professional gamer that's part of their organization that runs an esport, and the NFL and the MLB are not far.
Tell the trash.
Yep. Sorry, you had it. This one. I mean, I think it can be the gateway. I mean, if you're trying to get them there. So, for example, at the Thomas Cup, some of you guys might be familiar with the event we run at Thomas. We bring 200 high school students in. Our hook is League of Legends. That's how we get the students. But then they do a CSI event, they do an innovation event, they do a robotics event, they do a cybersecurity event, all on their computers that they. So we use it as a hook to get their interest, to get them to the table, and then we get 200 students there, and they spend an entire night, and we keep them up all night in the field house, and we play games, and we teach them other things, and all of those things for us, before they go off and do them, are led by a Thomas professor who gives them a 30-minute speech on it. So that could be one way to spin it. But I think it depends on how you do. What are you going at esports with? Are you looking at it like design perspective? Are you looking at it just strictly a gaming perspective? I think at the younger levels, you're going to have more and more parent input on the types of games you can play. I know some high schools I've seen have chosen, like, we'll play something like League of Legends, but we will not play Fortnite or a first-person shooter, so to speak. Like, they say, okay, that's just not maybe the best decision in a high school environment to have a first-person. I guess that's a school-to-school decision. I don't personally have an opinion on it, but I see why schools are sitting with that decision going, which way do we go? Fair. Absolutely. We would love that.
So I, as the coach, have a lot of sort of view of how to answer, I would say, the overwhelming majority, if not all of those questions. So much so that when I came on, I really had to hit the ground running. I frankly wish I had had another 3 months to get set up properly. Over this summer, I will be quite literally designing a curriculum for my something that sort of assuages a lot of the woes of parents who aren't keen on the idea of video gaming is a lot of the practices that will occur for these games when in the proper environment aren't even them playing games. To me, taking them into a classroom, going over strategy, going over how to communicate. Our Rainbow Six Siege team, for example, this past Monday, we didn't play the game at all. We literally went into a room, and this is the premise of the game is that it's a 5 versus 5 shooter game, and it uses almost like SWAT tactics. And they've been having a lot of difficulties with the efficiency of their communication. So we had 2 of our criminal justice students come in and explain how, as a student of criminal justice, they perform felony stop. In a felony stop, you have to work with your coworker and communicate as efficiently as possible in order to keep both of you safe. And so we integrated something that they're learning as part of their legitimate academic program and apply it to the esport. That sort of application of real-world tangible concept, you can't do that.
If you just do a quick Google search for high school esports, Bytespeed, I don't know how in the last 6 months has climbed up to #1. And we've just compiled tons and tons of research and links on this exact stuff too. So yeah, I know you and I work together quite frequently, Andy, so we'll just stay in touch and, connect with these guys, and I'll get you their emails too, but go from there.
I'm going to steal something Martin said actually in a meeting this morning. So we steal each other's things quite often now. So when you look at the excessive screen time piece, he said this wonderfully this morning was, is it the excessive screen time or what's the negative concept? And then let's attack and let's work on those. When we bring that, if you think the excessive screen time, and I just was in a webinar yesterday with Bears looking at Gen Z and their increased rate of sleeplessness, depression, and all these other pieces, and a lot of it is deprived from loneliness and being alone. So this is taking their game and thing they're doing alone, we're putting them with other people. And then you can start to bring in the nurse and other people to say, hey, this student hasn't been sleeping. How do we help them with that? How do we support them as a person with the problem and not just say, you need to cut down your. Because for them, it might not be realistic. This generation, screen time is not going away. I used the example this morning as well. Like, how many of you are doing more screen time now in your professional career than you did in high school? Most of us. So we're trying to tell them to do less of exactly what we're doing more of. It's counterproductive. Let's find what the symptoms are and find the best ways to serve those students. And we do that in the student affairs environment. Working everything from health, safety, public safety to dance and theater, everything in between. That's what we do with Life Outside the Classroom. How do we make these people successful in their lives and in their endeavors, whatever that is? Other thoughts, questions? We haven't brought anything in at this point. We start to stream. We do have a Twitch, and we have a Twitch affiliate now,
yeah,
which means
we hit affiliate on actually yesterday night before, 2 days ago. We hit Twitch affiliate, which means that we're now going to make money off streaming our game. That's nice.
Yeah, again, I pretend like I know a lot about the games. Martin has forgot more than I know, and I didn't know what a Twitch affiliate is, and I've been watching games on Twitch for several years. So it really depends, and I think for us, one of the pieces that Tanner brought up is the student that you're going to have so varied. The stereotype does not exist anymore. We have everything from female students in our CJ major to starters on our men's basketball team to soccer players to your stereotypical quote-unquote student who you think would be a gamer. It crosses the board. Students in these generations play video games. All of them. And we're just trying to find ways to take that passion, put it on display, and give them an opportunity. And maybe some of these kids will have the opportunity to earn scholarship. The scholarship thing, I feel like, has ebbs and flows to it. We don't offer scholarship. Other schools do. Some of them are small. Some of them are big. But if you're not at that professional level, that professionals are starting to eat up those scholarships. And I will say, and I've said this a lot, if you look at a football, they're going to go to high school, go to college, and then they're going to go to the NFL. That's the career path if you're a professional. esports is starting to look more and more like it's high school professional college. Go to a professional, earn your money, then if you're no longer professional, you're still probably one of the best collegiate players in the country. Get a scholarship, get college for free after. Different path, non-traditional college student, but still you're seeing people do that. Or you're seeing former professionals now coming into the collegiate world as coaches and analysts. Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, anything you guys need, if you want to talk, chat afterwards, we're happy to answer questions.